At 48, an accountant slides a balance sheet across your desk. 68 trucks, a net worth of roughly $7.71 million. You stare at the number longer than you expected. Not because you've never seen a big revenue figure, you have. But 22 years earlier, a bank looked at the same man and said no to his very first truck loan. And before this story is over, you'll nearly lose a rig on black ice, wake up with no memory of the last 10 miles, watch another owner lose both of his trucks, and get a 3 a.m. call telling you one of your drivers has crashed. This is how a regular long-haul driver turns a $10,200 down payment into a 68 truck company. 8 levels, and every level gets more expensive. Level 1, the bank says no, the highway doesn't. You're 26. You've spent 6 years hauling freight for other companies. You know how to back a trailer into a loading dock at midnight. You know how to sleep through a reefer unit humming 4 feet from your head. What you don't know is how different trucking feels when the payment is in your name. You find a used 2019 Class 8 truck with 420,000 miles on it. Price, $68,000. The seller is an older dealer named Stan. He's been selling commercial trucks for more than 20 years. He sees you staring at the odometer. You think it's finished? You shrug. Stan taps the engine bang. A maintained diesel can run 750,000 to 1 million miles before a major overhaul. At 420,000, this thing isn't old, it's middle-aged. That makes you feel better, slightly. You put together $10,200 for the down payment and apply at your first bank. The loan officer likes your work history. 6 years behind the wheel, no major credit problems. But there's a catch. You've never borrowed a large amount under your own name. Your credit isn't bad, it's just thin. The bank says no. So you try a lender that specializes in commercial trucks. They say yes, but the interest rate jumps from 7% to 9%. They also want 2 years of pay records. You spend an evening digging through old folders and bank statements, trying to prove that, yes, you have actually been working this entire time. Eventually, the loan closes. $57,800 financed. 60 months. About $1,200 a month. You own the truck, technically. The lender is still emotionally involved. You don't have your own operating authority yet, so you lease on to another carrier. They provide the trailer and freight. In return, they keep 8% of every load. At first, that 8% feels painful. Later, you realize it was temporarily covering several problems you weren't ready to pay for yourself. In month 3, an engine sensor fails in Arizona. The repair costs $3,400. The truck sits for 4 days. No miles, no freight, no revenue. But the monthly payment still arrives right on schedule, because truck loans are very reliable that way. Then winter hits Wyoming. Snow blows across the interstate so hard that the road nearly disappears. The pavement looks wet. It isn't. The truck rolls onto black ice. The trailer swings outward. The cab starts sliding toward the guardrail. You do not slam the brakes. You ease off the throttle. Hold the wheel, correct once, then again. The truck finally stops less than a truck width from the barrier. You sit in the cab for 10 minutes before noticing your hands are shaking. By the end of the year, your net worth is only about $11,000. You thought buying a truck would buy freedom. Instead, it transferred every risk your employer used to carry directly onto you. Level 2, the 10 miles you can't remember. The truck is still in the lane. Your hands are still on the wheel. But you suddenly realize you cannot remember the last 10 miles. No exit signs, no passing cars, nothing. You pull into the next rest area and shut down. For the first time, you admit that fatigue is not a character test. It is an operating cost. A few months earlier, at 28, you had received your own MC number. Now you could work directly with brokers and shippers. No more 8% cut. Sounds great. Then the carrier took back its trailer. You bought a used 53-foot dry van for $22,000 using another equipment loan. Next came insurance. Because your company was new and had no safety history, insurers classified you as a new entrant carrier. Annual premium, $16,500, and they wanted 25% up front. That was about $4,100 before the policy even started. You also signed with a factoring company. They advanced your invoice payments in exchange for 1% to 3%. It cost money, but fuel, insurance, and loan payments did not care that a customer wanted 30 days to pay. Your first independent load ran from Atlanta to Chicago. At the receiver, they told you there was no unloading appointment. You waited 6 hours. The contract said detention started after 2. The broker refused to pay. You sent emails, called again, forwarded the gate records. The freight arrived on Tuesday. The money arrived 3 weeks later. And only after 7 emails, 4 phone calls, and proof that you had been sitting at the gate the entire time, you finally collected $400. That same year, diesel climbed above $5 a gallon. Fuel briefly ate more than 35% of revenue. You stopped accepting ordinary dry van loads below $1.80 per mile. Some brokers called you picky. You called it arithmetic. Level 3, the first driver you can't control. At 31, cash flow is finally steadier. You buy a second truck. A used 2017 model, 580,000 miles, private sale, no warranty, price $41,000. It is cheaper than similar trucks because the clutch is nearly finished. You buy it and spend another $2,800 replacing the clutch. Then you add a second used trailer for $19,000. Now you have 2 trucks, 2 trailers, and only 1 body. So you hire your first driver, Terrence. He is 25 and recently earned his CDL. You show him the truck, the paperwork, the inspection routine, and the company rules. What you cannot show him is the exact weight of the responsibility you just took on. A regulator performs a routine compliance review. One maintenance record is missing a date. You are ordered to correct it. Small issue, big lesson. Every speeding ticket, skipped inspection, and hours of service violation made by Terrence will eventually land on your company's safety record. A few months later, his steer tire blows on the interstate. The cab jerks hard to the right. A car is beside him. Terrence holds the wheel, avoids braking hard, and gradually brings the truck onto the shoulder. No one is hurt, but the wheel damage, body damage, and towing bill come to nearly $6,000. Terrence goes home shaken. You stay awake even longer than he does, because scaling a fleet means tying more people's lives to the quality of your decisions. Level 4. Every extra mile loses more money. At 34, the freight market collapses. Too many independent owners entered during the boom. Freight volume does not keep up. Spot rates fall as low as $1.35 per mile. For many carriers, that is below the real cost of fuel, insurance, maintenance, wages, and debt. Your friend Bruno owns 2 trucks. He refuses to park them. He accepts cheaper loads, delays maintenance, buys diesel on credit cards. His logic is simple. A parked truck looks like it is losing money. A moving truck looks productive. 4 months later, you find him emptying his cab in a parking lot. Clothes, a coffee maker, a mattress, old logbooks. The lender is taking both trucks the next morning. Bruno sits on the step and looks at the ground. I thought I could survive by running harder. Then he gives a tired laugh. Turns out every extra mile just made me lose more. You make the opposite decision. You park the second truck. Terrence takes temporary driving work elsewhere. You keep only the fixed customer loads that still cover cost. Then one night, you stop at a remote service area. 2 men knock on your door and say they need directions, but they keep looking at the fuel tanks and trailer seal. You do not unlock the cab. You switch on every light and pull away. The detour adds 40 miles. It also keeps the truck, the cargo, and possibly you out of trouble. That year, your net worth falls from $118,000 to $79,000. For the first time, your business gets smaller, but you are still in business, and Bruno is not. Level 5, the 3 a.m. phone call. At 3 a.m., your phone rings. Daryl is on the line. One of your drivers has rear-ended another vehicle in heavy rain. The driver is not badly injured, but the truck is down. The cargo must be transferred. The customer needs an explanation. The insurer opens an investigation. The tow company wants payment. You are nowhere near the crash. Still, every problem arrives at your desk. By sunrise, you have spoken to the driver, the customer, the insurer, the tow company, and the replacement team. Not one of them asks whether you slept. The call comes when your fleet has reached 7 trucks. Getting there took years. At 36, rates had finally begun to recover. Terrence returned. Your second truck went back into service. Because you had nearly 3 years of clean safety records and consistent repayments, a regional bank gave you a revolving equipment credit line. You no longer applied for a separate loan every time you bought a truck. You drew from the line, bought one vehicle, repaired it, put it to work, let the cash flow stabilize, then bought the next one. That is how you went from 2 trucks to 9. Not in one dramatic jump, one careful vehicle at a time. You bought 3 trucks from failing operators at roughly 20% below market value. You hired a full-time dispatcher named Daryl. You also won a contract with a regional retail chain. The rates were about 10% lower than the spot market, but the routes were predictable. Empty miles were lower. Cash flow was steadier. For the first time, you were not buying maximum revenue. You were buying certainty. By the time you reached 9 trucks, your clean record finally moved you out of the most expensive new carrier insurance tier. Your net worth reached roughly $620,000. A year earlier, every problem reached you through the steering wheel. Now it reached you through a phone that never seemed to ring during daylight. Level 6, the truck that should never have left. At 40, outside repair shops become a bottleneck. A small problem can leave a truck waiting 2 or 3 days. The repair bill hurts. The lost operating time hurts more. You buy 4 acres of land for $285,000. Down payment, $60,000. The rest goes into a 10-year commercial real estate loan. You build a fleet yard, office, and repair shop. Routine work can now happen on site. Tires, brakes, sensors, preventive maintenance. Overall maintenance costs drop by about 12%. Then one morning, a truck is scheduled to leave. During inspection, your mechanic finds a cracked brake air line. The repair costs only a few $100s, but if that truck had reached a long downhill grade, the result could have been very different. The mechanic drops the cracked piece onto your desk. You keep it, not because it is valuable, because it nearly was. Your net worth rises to roughly $1.45 million. Level 7, 48 hours to save the contract. The email arrives with one line highlighted. A repair date does not match a dispatch record. Until you explain the mismatch, the contract award is on hold. You have 48 hours to prove the truck was never operated in an unsafe condition. At 44, your fleet has passed 60 trucks and operates across 3 states. The regional bank has raised your revolving credit line to $5 million. They no longer judge one truck at a time. They judge the entire company. Cash flow, debt service, utilization, safety scores, maintenance history. You have applied for a 3-year government transportation contract. The review requires financial statements, driver qualifications, insurance records, and 5 years of maintenance and safety history. Then the reviewer finds the date mismatch. Your team opens storage boxes and searches old digital files, original work orders, mechanic signatures, dispatch logs. The clock keeps moving. With only hours left, you find the sequence. The repair was completed correctly. The date was entered 1 day late. The truck never moved while unsafe. You submit the records, the hold is removed, the contract is approved. 13 years earlier, a missing date felt like paperwork. Now, one date nearly stops 3 years of guaranteed freight. By the end of this level, your net worth is about $6.3 million. Level 8, the final balance sheet. At 48, Terrence is no longer the young driver who made you stare at your phone all night. He is your fleet operations manager. One day, he walks a group of new drivers through the shop. On the wall is an old photo of you at 26, standing beside that first 420,000-mile truck. Terrence points to it. That's where this company actually started. Then the accountant finishes the full valuation. 68 trucks, about $5.1 million. 66 trailers, about $1.98 million. The fleet yard, offices, and shop, about $2.1 million. Cash and outstanding receivables, about $680,000. Total assets, about $9.86 million. Outstanding equipment and property debt, about $2.15 million. Net worth, approximately $7.71 million. The accountant looks toward the window. That first 2019 truck is parked beside the repair shop. At 420,000 miles, you once worried it was already too old. Now, it is the oldest truck in a yard, filled with 67 others. Financially, it is one of the least valuable assets you own. On the shelf behind your desk sits the cracked brake air line your mechanic found years earlier. Every system in the company exists because something once went wrong. A sensor failed in Arizona. A trailer slid across black ice in Wyoming. A driver lost a steer tire at highway speed. A friend kept running until the lender took both trucks. Bruno tried to survive by driving farther. You built the fleet by learning which miles not to take.